I'm really concerned, even if the river's a brick here, by him cold calling the check raise because, sometimes what you'll see is a guy from under the gun will have like an. So 2.5, 800 cap at Foxwoods, okay?
Absolutely. So I am $600 effective. I am in the big blind with Jack 9 of diamonds.
Okay.
The under the gun one player limps, but I don't see it.
Okay.
The button raises to 15. And I have some previous history with the button. He's a kind of a goofy European guy.
Okay.
Who is there a lot and drinks quite often. We're here on I think a Tuesday afternoon, and he's having a few beverages. So he opens to 15, and I didn't notice the limp, so I figured this was just a standard open, and I flat in the big blind, and then I noticed the limper, and he calls behind.
So if you had noticed the limp, how would that have changed what your approach would have been here?
I think I would have been more apt to squeeze because I know the European player. I've played with him before. I don't know the under the gun one guy as well. This is my first time playing with him. So I know the European guy has quite a loose range. He loves to just call with pairs post flop. So I absolutely would have isolated. I would have raised to probably 45 out of position.
Because you don't want the limper to come in and you think there's immediate fold equity, right? Jack 9 of diamonds is going to be hard to play from out of position. That's one of the newer school things, and I can get on board with it. I've talked about this before, with sort of raw, using the computer tools and sort of raw computing power as it's sort of exponentially, increased over the last 10 to 15 years. You can just play out literally billions of scenarios. And how like gap suited connectors. You do have a little bit of high card value, but like a hand like 5-7 of diamonds, like playing that from out of position is just really, really negative EV. Whereas I would do it all the time. I'd be like, shit, like, okay, one guy limps, I get 5-7 of diamonds, I'll call, even though there's a limper, and now it's probably going to be a 3-bet fold. I'll get lazy sometimes. Like I called 7-8 of diamonds multi-way and small blind at the lodge.
We all do.
But yeah. So all right. So 3 ways. So we're 40. Was it 45?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I think with a little bit more with the big blind.
Okay.
The flop is the 9 of clubs, the 8 of diamonds, and the 4 of hearts.
Okay. So you flop top pair, right? Okay.
I check. The under the gun limper checks, and the button bets out here for $20.
Check. Button bets 20.
Yep.
Okay.
This was interesting. I opted to just call here. I think would the raising options really be weighted more towards ace 9 and king 9, stronger nines than this? I do have a backdoor as well. Plenty of backdoor equity.
Actually, I will take a little bit of exception with what you said, or I disagree a little bit. So this is a weird situation when you're thinking about protection raising, because you don't usually see that in a multi-way scenario. It's hard to run this like against a limper. So what I was going to say is that, you would see a reflection of a raise if heads up, but actually I would tend to, and I think that this is correct from what the computers are saying too, especially with the backdoors, like 10-9 and Jack 9, I would say we're probably going to be raised off more than ace 9. And that has to do, even with this backdoors, that has to do with just the protection that you need. If you wanted to make a protection type of raise, you can share the kickers with someone, which is actually good, right? Like if they're barreling with ace king, ace queen, allows you to call down across many other streets if you have ace 9, but 10-9 and Jack 9, you're not going to have that. But then you also have additional backdoor equity that you can pick up too. So if I was considering making an equity protection raise, I would do it more so with 10-9, Jack 9 with the backdoor. That's just a little subtle thing. So you call, and what does the limper do?
The limper also comes along. He just calls.
Okay, so limper calls. Yeah, I haven't seen this spot talked about all that much with like this specific thing. Like, I could see it. You might want to raise for protection and just sort of get the limper out of there with some equity that he might have too.
Right.
So I don't think it would be terrible. The guy's betting 15. That's a pretty small bet. I think you could make it 45 or 50 here too. Once in a while, you might, probably not for 45 or 50 against a limper. I'm just wondering once in a while if you would ever get a better hand to fold, like if the guy's, limped in with king 9 suited, but it's probably not going to happen. So limper calls, you call, limper calls, and it's like maybe 105 or 110. I'm going to put 105.
Yep, it's 110.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we are headed to a turn.
Yep.
The turn is the Jack of Spades,
Okay.
full rainbow.
So you turn top two now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the turn's the Jack of Spades, and you hold Jack nine of diamonds.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. So now it checks to the button again, and the European bets out $45 into 110. I tank here for a bit, and I opt to check raise to 160. I think in large part because I think he's going to have a lot of 10x with a pair. So a lot of 910, Jack 10. Well, yeah, 910, Jack 10, 10 8. So things like pair plus draw that he's absolutely going to call check raise with to see a river.
You check raise to
Um,
150?
160.
160. There's a
Yep.
couple. Let's talk about this spot. There's a couple things going on here. Number one, I don't know how you said he was kind of goofy.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. He's the nice guy.
Traditionally, so he's sort of a recreational player, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let's take a look against a better player, how would I attack this? Like if it was a very strong player and we were in this situation. If it was a strong player and we were in this specific situation, I actually think that you definitely are allowed to have some lead outs here on the turn. And this might be one of them to do it with. Usually it's a reflection of when straights come in and you balance it with some pair plus straight draw bluffs, or pair plus straight draw sort of semi bluffs, backdoor flush draws that you sort of pick up, although it's not present here. And then I would say that a stronger player here would be doing a lot of checking if he thought that he was sort of up against stronger competition, especially two ways. So if you flip this into sort of a high stakes game, it's hard to sort of think about it, but maybe like you called in the middle blind and then the straddle called and everybody was a decent player. I don't think that there would be a very large reflection necessarily of overpairs being bet into two people. And for that reason, also gives you sort of the chance to just come out and lead. You throw all that out the window here, but it's just interesting to note, thinking about sort of a higher stakes play. I still very well might lead here. Now, because I just think that the button's going to be checking it through a lot. Now, when he bets again, it would sort of indicate that he has something. There's no backdoor draws. I mean, I guess he could have like king 10, and you could get coolered here with sort of queen 10, but I don't mind the check raise. I don't think it's really necessarily like an overplay, and you have this other guy in there too. And usually like in these games, like if he has aces, kings, or queens, that's fine because he's just going to bet and call,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. So the under the gun limper actually calls the 160 and the button folds.
Someone says I have a typo here. What is it? 9 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, 4 of hearts. Oh, I just
you said river instead of turn, yeah.
Wow. Jesus, boy, that's very fucking nitpicky. Jack is all right. So here a check raises to 160. Big blind calls.
The under the gun.
Under the gun, excuse me.
He calls.
Yeah. Under the gun calls. Okay. Yeah.
And the button folds.
And the button folds.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, he bet folded there.
So now, well, if I was the button and I was betting over pairs, this is a snap fold with aces, right? I bet, let's say I'm gonna continue to bet an overpair here. I'll bet kings or aces, and then it goes check, raise, call. I'm done, which is fine, right? Especially with the straight out there, so that if someone had, I can't improve to like a better two pair. So you put in 323, 65. I want to say it's like 475 now.
Exactly,
like
475.
475. And what are the stacks left here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started at 600 effective.
Okay, so 160, 180. So it's like maybe 400-ish left, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's 475 in there. I have that back. I actually opt to. Well, I haven't said what the river card is yet, have I?
Uh-huh.
So the river card comes and it's the 7 of spades.
So if the river was a blank, what do you think that this under the gun guy like has cold called your check raise with on the turn? Because there's no backdoor flush draw, right?
Yeah, there's no backdoor flush draw. It's a rainbow board. Yeah, I mean it was not what I was looking for. Definitely not the desired outcome of the check raise. I really don't know what to weight him towards. I mean, I guess he can have flopped 9-8 for two pair, and then just called, and then the turn's kind of gross, but he calls the check raise. But I mean, I think he has a lot of thick value here. Like eights
Yeah,
and fours.
I'm really concerned, even if the river's a brick here, by him cold calling the check raise because sometimes what you'll see is a guy from under the gun will have like an overpair and just won't ever release it. But if you go to preflop, that's just not going to happen. So sometimes a guy will
Right.
wake up with an overpair that he was trying to limp re-raise, but he's under the gun and he gets the raise from the button plus you call. So that's always going to
Yeah.
be limp re-raised off. So he doesn't have an overpair. You hold top two on the turn. So when he cold calls the check raise and it seems like he might have all the queen tens here,
Right.
or he was
Absolutely.
slow playing, you usually don't see a reflection necessarily of a multi-way slow play, but once in a
Hmm.
while, to the point where I'm saying is that if the river's a deuce here, I would seriously consider checking and possibly folding or checking and evaluate. I don't think that I think you have absolutely run out of value. Now, that does not mean that your hand was an overplay because something else happened in between. You were trying to basically target the button from betting twice. We just
Hmm.
talked about that. Hey, maybe he will bet and call with aces kings. Let's say you check raise the turn, the button called, the other guy folded. Then by all means, you're going for value against one pair at the end. But this guy out of nowhere has cold called your check raise. Now I feel like you don't have the best hand. So when
Hmm.
the river obviously is a seven, it changes things like one of the other things too. Excuse me, actually, it does. It's very bad for you because one of the other hands that he could have had that he's just sort of bad, like is like a jack 10
Yeah.
or a 9-10 that just he's just very sort of he doesn't want to fold. Now he's open ended plus a pair. He doesn't want to fold. So that's why if the river's a brick here, if it was so again the flop is 9-8-4, turns a jack, river's a seven, but let's say the river's a deuce, you could theoretically check with the intention of check folding on a river deuce, but that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you're always going to lose the hand. It could just go check check. He'll just check back jack
Right.
10. But here, I can't imagine really anything but check folding here because I just don't think he's going to be with this action. I don't think that he's going to be betting anything worse for value here.
Yeah. And so what ends up happening is I check
Okay.
and he bets out 250. And in terms of like live reads, this guy had me well covered pre.
Uh huh.
So, he's probably 1200 pre flop. And at Foxwoods, they allow you to play with cash on the table. So he started the hand with 3 bills under his stack and he pulls out two of the bills and then puts the $50 on top of it. And I love the fact that they allowed people to play the bills
Right.
at this casino because I think that absolutely they use the bills in the situations where they're going for value without thinking that like it's a pretty easy read that you're putting out the actual physical money. Like psychologically, it makes it harder for them to bluff with that. I don't know if that factors into this at all, but I thought that was pretty interesting that he chose to bet with the cash when he absolutely had enough, 25s
So
in
you
the
think
stack to
it?
put
You
out.
think that that's a live tell that it's a bluff when he bets with the cash?
No, no, I think it's a live tell that it's value.
Oh, okay. That's live tell. That's
Yeah,
value.
yeah. I
Yeah, I
think
haven't
there
really.
people are
I
way
haven't
less
played
willing.
with cash in so long. I don't know really what to say about. I mean, it's been so long. I mean, that could certainly. I mean, that could be. But I just, a couple people again. I addressed this over pairs. Don't really get here like this because they would have limp erased pre-flop and they're just going to check behind on the river. I mean, I just think
Absolutely.
this is just a trivial fold. I think the hand would have been more interesting if the river's a brick and you check and he bets 250. I'm assuming that you folded here. Is that right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Okay.
I thought about it for a quick minute, and I was like, "There's just, like you said, there's absolutely no way when he cold calls that check raise and then bets 250 here. I
Hmm.
mean, it just screams value to
And
me.
then did you ever find out what he had?
No, he was a very very quiet guy. I asked, but I don't even think he heard me. He had earbuds in.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's too bad. But
yeah, it is. I'd love to know.
I mean, I think that I might have led the turn just a little, like I said, a little bit of a takeaway. I don't really have that big of a problem with your check raise, but
Mhm.
when you're targeting one person, then someone all of a sudden wakes up in between, things have to change, right? So it's not an overplay it would be an overplay if you check raised the turn and the preflop raiser called and then you were somehow scared that you didn't have the best hand and then was forced to check the river. That's an overplay. If you're in a
Mm,
situation where you're scared when somebody calls who is the person that you're targeting, then you've done something wrong. But this guy's
yeah,
not the guy you were targeting. He was just there and he just wakes up. You know what I mean?
yeah. No,
So
that makes perfect sense.
it's interesting too if you check raise and the button only calls and the river's a seven, what you would do against the button as well.
Right. Because like I said, I weighted a lot of his range towards Air Plus in terms of things that I was
Right.
ahead of.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So All In
Thank you so
Podcast,
much.
right? All In Podcast?
Absolutely. The All In Poker Podcast, all 4 words. I'll hop in the chat.
Oh, because
as
well, you guys
podcast.
got sort of cock blocked by the All In Podcast, which is
Well, I mean, to
Shamath
be
and
fair,
Jason
I think they were there
Calacanis.
first.
Were they?
So we came in after them. To be fair to them,
When did you guys start?
we started a little bit over a year ago. So
okay.
last February, I believe. Towards the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah, so they started.
You helped us get started, actually. I appreciate you so much. You helped us figure out how to work StreamYard, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
So thank you so much.
All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to this channel down below. And to get more live cash game, no limit training, head over to crushlivepoker.com and you can use the code YTA400 to get the first 30 days for free. First 30 days for free. First 30 days